So, just a quick recap of what we discussed yesterday in the end. So, disaster. Why this policy was thought? Why this disaster management, national disaster management policy of India was thought of, and what are its inclusions? We'll see how the framework of disaster management is there in India, and what are the various organizations associated with it. Sometimes you can expect a short note on just the National Disaster Management Policy or the National Disaster Management Act, or simply Disaster Management Act 2005, or simply you can expect the question on discuss the paradigm shift in disaster management. So questions can be of mixed nature. Only thing you need to understand basically what is expected, and what you have to write, because you cannot write each and everything, no? Because this is a 50 page 56-page document, but you cannot write everything in it, no? You need to be very specific what is exactly asked and what specifically you have to write. So we'll discuss in due course of time. So again, why this thought? Because of disaster disrupting the development and causing a lot of, you can say, chaos and confusion in the life of people. Then disaster risk we had discussed yesterday. Who are which are the various, you can say, parameters, or various, you can say, disasters which Indian land is more prone to. So these various percentages we had seen, and then after that we had seen the vulnerable people. Who are the vulnerable people, and what how the paradigm shift came. Paradigm shift means an entire nature of the disaster management has shifted. Previously it was more of, you can say, a defensive approach. Defensive or reactive approach means what? Whenever the disaster is to strike, what is to do is the enforcement and all would have been done for relief and rescue operations. But now what is there? More focus is there on preparedness, mitigation, reconstruction, isn't it? So previously only the, you can say, state governments and all were involved. Now it is a centralized approach. A national disaster management system is there. So what is done is entirely it is being managed through a centralized approach, and even the decentralized approach to the various uh, states, districts, and panchayats and municipalities, and all this disaster management is done. So that was a very paradigm shift in 2005, especially after the 1999 Kochi floods. Na, this paradigm shift came into picture. Fine. So yesterday also we had discussed this, but again I'm showing you because you need to know the earthquake profile of India. Earthquake zones. If you see in the northernmost part of the country, in Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, what is there? It is a severe. The dark red means a very severe zone 5, where whenever the earthquake is there, there will be a very, I can say, large magnitude of earthquake, and the entire belt is again not extremely severe, but at least severe. The red means extremely severe. Northeastern zone is extremely severe. In Gujarat also, Bhuj and all these all places are extremely severe. Again, this belt is severe. Gujarat is also moderately, you can say, moderate. In Mumbai metropolitan region and all these places, in Western Maharashtra, it is again gone to severe, classified as high damage zone. Why it is classified as high damage zone? Because previously it was under this moderate damage zone 3. Now it has gone into zone 4 because of the more, it is attributed to the Koina water, because Koina dam is there. It blocks a water of about 70 kilometers width, or you can say length of water is just blocked. So the weight of the water has caused the it has moved, or it has changed the zone from zone 3 to zone 4. And you can say there are also zones which are low damage zones. Even if the earthquake is there, it will not be in the more intensity. So it is generally in the Karnataka, Andhra belt, central Karnataka, and these all belts are there. So low intensity. Even in the Madhya Pradesh and the central India and all, the low intensity zone is there, where not too much precautions for earthquake is needed. And then the second flood zone is a flood zone. Of course, the northern rivers which flow, which are flowing due to the melting of the Himalayan glaciers and all. So the melting of the Himalayan ice, which to perennial, the rivers being perennial, and whenever it is influxed by the or monsoon water, whenever it is influxed, whenever the monsoon water comes, it adds to the water and it leads to floods. Of Of course, there are several rivers in Gujarat also which are perennial, and hence you see in the last few years so many floods are there in Gujarat and all. Of course, this has changed in Kerala and all. Also, there are many rivers in Maharashtra also. Uh, we have specifically in Mumbai and the coastal Maharashtra, which is prone to floods mostly. And recently, we have heard in Nasik and Pune also floods are there, but it is not that you can say frequent. One more term is there, probable maximum surge height. Probable maximum surge height means what is the maximum flood which is there in the 50 years duration, that is found out. So you can see, especially in this belt, na? Here and all it is 4 and 4.5 like this. But if you see in this belt and one more belt is there in the West Bengal and all, I'll show you. So this belt, if you see, a 5 meter high flood level is there in the inside, because what happens na, when the flood is there, at least 5 meter is quite, you can see, quite big amount of flood. 5 meters means you can imagine it is like a two-storied structure. Na? Generally, one floor is 3 meters, 3.3 meters. You can see 5 meter, 1.5 floor rise in flood water is there. And also one interesting case is in this particular belt, in the Orissa belt, na? Orissa West Bengal belt. There is a flood of, you can say, 12 meter, or a probable maximum flood is 12 meter, 13 meter also. This particular small belt is there where the probable maximum water. So it is a, you can say, huge. You can imagine 13 meters, almost 3 stories. The rise of water is being recorded. Probably in the some flood that much rise is recorded. So wind and cyclone map, of course. The entire belt is safe. Only the entire central belt is safe. Only the coastal regions and the northern Himalayan and all region they are affected. The coastal regions have very high damage risk zones, especially the Orissa, West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, some part of Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh. Again, it is measured by cyclone storm theory. This we have done in the last module, how the cyclone and all is measured. Landslide affected, of course, wherever there are hills, there will be landslides, avalanches. So, Jammu Kashmir, Ladakh, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, they are landslide prone. Northeast belt is landslide prone. Maharashtra is moderately affected because of the, of course, it depends on the type of soil. Also, we have black cotton soil mostly, it is affected. Depending on the nature of the soil, it will be. This we have done studied yesterday. Now we'll discuss more about the approach and objective. The screen is visible to all.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So why this particular disaster management policy was thought of? To build a safer and disaster resilient India by developing holistic, proactive, multi-disaster oriented and technology driven strategy. So these all words are important. Holistic means taking everything into picture. Proactive means I explained you two things. There may be two things. There may be two reactions, or two, you can say, uh, two policies to any event. One may be a reactive policy. One may be a proactive policy. Reactive means you react after the incident, and proactive means you think what will be done after the event is. If any event is there, you have a plan for it. You have a strategy for it, and you plan for it. And if I have also coined a phrase which is commonly coined in English, that if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So it is a similar similitude can be drawn. So proactive approach is there, where preparedness, mitigation, and all these fears are also taken into consideration in addition to the relief, reconstruction, rehabilitation. Multi-disaster means not previously what was done. A common set of, you can say, for disaster, some boats were purchased, and common boats, common, you can say, common policies were there. But now disaster specific, you can say, arrangements are there. So people know the NDRF teams and whatever teams are there which work in the disaster management, they know okay which disaster will require what machinery. So that proper, like if you see the other day, the DCB, JCBs and all were involved, right, for removing the, you can say, removing the debris from the fallen building. So that sort of arrangement is there. Previously, what was that? Such systems were not there. So people were not aware what should be used when. or there the relief was delayed. So now, due to the various strategic, you can say, advancements and strategic decisions, what is happening is it is a more proactive approach. So disaster management definitions and all are there, I've studied in the module 1. So again, I will discuss about the continuum. I'll discuss about the disaster management cycle. So first is what? Now this is a proactive strategy where you will go from prevention, mitigation, preparedness. Means what you will do is you will develop the capacity. है ना? Means the people themselves will be able to handle much of the disaster. है ना? Like if there is a, you can just imagine, if there is a flood, people themselves will be able to move to safe shelters and all like that, or tsunami is there, so safe shelters they should be able to move. So you develop the capacity, right? You think of it before only, and then when the incident is there, of course incidents cannot be averted, there will be hazards, there will be disasters, but the disasters intensity or disasters, you can say, disaster severity can be reduced. So after the incident, immediately rescue operation is there. Then immediate relief should be provided. Then again the triage batch, na, which we discussed in the other module, in the module 1. So triage batch and all this should be done. So assessment should be there. Response should be there. Rehabilitation, reconstruction. This all process then go on. So again, the process is prevention. The proactive strategy is prevention of danger of any disaster, because disaster will be there, but to prevent the threat or minimize the threat is important. Mitigation, capacity building, preparedness. This were discussed the other day. Prompt response, immediate response, na? Delayed response, na? Because there is a golden hour. We'll discuss this golden hour when medical assistance and all, EMS and all these people come into picture. Then assessment, assessing the severity or magnitude of effects of any disaster, evacuation, relief, rescue, rehabilitation, reconstruction. So these all phases are there. So it is a holistic approach. So what has happened is over the last 12 years, disaster management is more emphasis on building strategic partnership at various levels. Strategic partnership means now it is a coordinated effort. Unlike previously what was happening, it was just a state-centric approach. States were just involved in disaster management, or districts were just involved in disaster management, and the monetary help would only be provided by the center. But now it is a, you can say, a coordinated approach. So again, you can see community-based disaster management, local people, local bodies, local NGOs and all, they come forward, including last mile integration of the policy. Means it should be, no corner of the country should be left aloof from the disaster management policy. Capacity development in all spheres. All spheres means the spheres which we discuss in the continuum. The 6 spheres, all capacity, all things will be developed. Consolidation of past incentives. Past initiatives means what was done in the previous disaster, the historical record, the documentation and best practices which were followed, so that life could be saved. Cooperation with agencies and national and international levels. Multi-sectoral synergy. So these all things are there. So objectives of national policy of disaster is promoting culture of prevention, preparedness, resilience in all levels through knowledge, innovation, and education. Encouraging mitigation measures based on technology, traditional wisdom, and environment sustainability. Mainstreaming disaster management into the, so all these things are there. We had discussed yesterday how disaster management can be mainstream, like the approvals and all. In this process only, if the structure is disaster safe, if the project is disaster safe, then only it should be approved. Establishing institutional technological framework, techno-legal frameworks, ensuring efficient mechanism for identifying, assessment, monitoring disaster risks, and developing contemporary forecasting and early warning system by involving technology. By involving technology, fail-safe communication means not the communication system is there. If any app is there, like in the, you can say, in many state governments are using this app for corona tracking and all. This is a very good system if it is developed using GIS and all these systems. Again, people can be saved. Undertaking reconstruction is an opportunity to build disaster resilient structures, ensuring efficient disaster response and relief with a caring approach towards the needs of vulnerable society, like the poor people, especially the women, children, elder people. Promoting productive and proactive partnership with the media for disaster management. So this is also important, media and all, because the news and all should reach proper, you can say, through proper channel. So these all systems are there. So we'll discuss more about this institutional arrangements. Before that, I'll just float as promised yesterday. We'll just have the quiz. It is a small quiz. 5 questions are there. You please go from your device. You go to this website and enter this code. You have done. You have entered this. Once you all have entered, I will just start because I don't want nobody should be left out. Yes, next students have joined. Why today so less people are there? 51. Okay, join. So before starting this quiz, na? Okay, let us join. I'll wait for 1 minute so that others are also on the same page. Otherwise, they will be late in the quiz. All of you should attend the quiz. Those who attend only their attendance will be considered. Fine. Because here we have only 39 people. And in the meet we have how much? We have around 51. So shall we start? I think we'll start. Already it's 3 to 4 minutes I have given you. Fine. So you can start. It has started. The quiz has started.
No, sir.
No.
No, sir. Question is not visible.
Just a moment. Yes, it has started, I think. Is that started now?
Yes, sir. Yes.
It has started or no? Magdoom?
Yes, sir. Started.
Yes, it has started. You're able to give the quiz?
Yes, sir. I'm already done.
Already done. Very nice. So again, speed is also important. Not only the correctness, but also speed is important in this. So it will take, I think so, 2 or 3 minutes more, because I have given it 1 minute for each question. So 5 minutes will be there. When it was started in 12 to 31, I think, you know. When did I message on that group? Okay. 1 more minute left. So quickly fill, quickly complete the quiz. After 1 minute, the results will be displayed. Yes, only 5 questions are there. Initially, I thought, because I am also experimenting with this software for the first time, Mentimeter and all we have used, but this is a very good software, because there is no limit to questions. And again, we can shuffle various questions also. I think this is a good tool. Initially, if it is a successful tool, maybe I could conduct more quizzes in similar fashion. Fine then. I think so. Results would be just out in some seconds.
Sir,
Yes, Faiz.
sir, you may try to refresh it or yeah.
Yeah, I have refreshed. I have refreshed.
Sir, quiz is completed from my side.
Very nice. Okay, so we have results. So congratulations to the toppers. You can see. Who is this? MAKND? I'm not knowing his name.
Magdum Nakade.
Magdum. Oh, very nice. So congratulations, Magdum. He is the quickest and most accurate. Faiz, I think so. Faiz will be the quickest, but he has made one error. We need to see what error, because there's only 4 questions. Is it so?
Yes, sir. First question was wrong.
That's why. Otherwise, Faiz would have been top. Who is he? Altamash. Altamash has also got good score. Fine. So congratulations to the top 5. Again, all of you have attempted it correctly, most of you. Some errors are there. It's no problem even if you have got a low score because there will be several quiz. We will be fine. 48. So many people are there in 48. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Still people are doing quiz. Fine. So congratulations to Magdum, Saved, Faiz, Altamash, and who is this? I don't know your name. 13, 17, Amy 32. Congratulations to you all. My name is not Aditya is saying my name is not shown. Why your name is not being shown? I am not sure. It is there, na? Adi B. Adi B is there. Of course, you may have given it quickly, na? You can just analyze also the results of this quiz, na? Confusion answer also can be done.
Sir,
Yes, Aditya.
sir, sir, attendance sheets, attendance link you sending, yeah, you
Attendance
already
sheet I
taken,
will
yeah, you
attendance sheet I will
already taken
share.
from the sheet.
No, this will be used for tally purpose. Look, that is a document. That is an official document which I will be requiring for your attendance input and all. Na? In this sheet, of course, you have, not everybody has written roll number. Like if this name is then how can I come to know such similar names are there? Like Adi B is there. I can okay, recognize. Some names I cannot recognize. Na? So I will of course send the attendance sheet also, and this will be tallied with this. Fine.
Yes, sir,
You can
fine.
see. Now who is this Khan Muhammad Ajmal? Khan Abdul Muzammil Aziz. He has also given 5 rights. So if you give 5 rights, even if you take a little longer time, you will get a good score. You should remember this in your next quizzes which I'll post. Na? Even if you can say, of course, time is important. You should not take say 5 minutes for the entire quiz. Then even if you are giving 5 to 5 questions right, then also it won't help. But time is important. But accuracy is also important. Like Muhammad Khan Abdul Muzammil Aziz, he took a relatively longer time, but his all questions were correct. Compared to Faiz, who took a very short time, but his one question was wrong. That's what happened is he moved to the fourth place. Fine. Okay. So shall we proceed with the other part of the lecture?
Yes, sir.
So you may have got a pop up on your this which question is right and which is wrong. Correct answer you have got in your screens, or shall I share?
No, sir. We got it.
You want the correct answers? Okay, I'll just discuss with you. So who had the SDMA? SDMA is what? State Disaster Management Authority. So who heads it? The Chief Minister will head it. Fine. 37 people have given it correctly. 19 people, na? Because what happens? We read it as NDMA, and we just make some mistakes. Approximate percentage of flood prone land in India is how much? Yes, anybody?
12%.
Flood prone land is how much?
12.
12%. 12%.
12%. Correct. 12% is the correct answer. MMR Mumbai Metropolitan Region falls in which zone?
4.
It's
4.
also in the fourth zone. Okay. Last 50 years back it was in the third zone, but now it has moved to the fourth zone. And which year it was enacted? Now this is Disaster Management Act, not Disaster Management Policy. National Disaster Management Policy was enacted in 2009, but Act was enacted in 2005. Fine. What is next? Which institutes carries out major research and development? So research and development is carried out by NIDM, whereas these are all what? These are all assisting body, means these are policy formers and then how to take it forward. No, they all do. But research and documentation, research activities, and all is carried by the National Institute for Disaster Management. It runs various courses. Some even online courses are there, and some even offline training they give. So all these courses are there. So okay, very well done to all of you. Of course, there were some wrong answers, but fine. It is your first quiz. In the next quiz, we'll see who excels. I will try to accommodate more questions so it becomes a more, you can say, more competitive type of quiz. Fine. So just before closing this session, I'll just highlight what are the important organizations for disaster management, institutional and legal arrangements. So according to this act, na, the Disaster Management Act of 2005, what it does now, because there were two major events which led to this act. One was the Kosi floods in 1999, and one was the uh, Bhuj earthquake in 2001. So people were even after, you can say, even after having so much, you can say, past experience of disaster, still the flood caused damage, whereas the earthquake, it caused chaos. Many people lost their lives. Now, according to official documents, around 9,000 something people lost their life, but unofficially people claim that 25,000 people lost their lives. So even people had experience of disasters like earthquake, but still the loss of life, the severity of disaster was there. So people came with this Disaster Management Act. The governments came up with this Disaster Management Act. So what it does is it lays down institutional, legal, financial, and coordination mechanism at state. So all of these are separate study aspects. In the exam, you may be asked any one of this. You may be asked what is the institutional framework of disaster management. You should be able to answer. Or so a question may be like explain the Disaster Management Act. So you should write it in entirety so that all points are covered and also not your answer becomes too lengthy for you to finish. Okay. Second thing is only the institutional framework you ask. So you should discuss only about the institutional framework, that is NDMA, NRDF, NIDM. All of these you should discuss. The legal aspects also, who are the various, you can say, responsibility or various, you can say, legal responsibilities are there on which organizations. This also can be asked. Financially, how it is, which are the various funds which contribute to this disaster management operation according to disaster management, and coordination mechanisms at various state, national, and district and local. So these questions you can expect. So these institutions are not parallel structures. They are not parallel structures. They have to be work in coordination. Close harmony means they are structures which are there. There are committees, there are organizations which have to work in toto in sync with each other so that the proper disaster management is made in the advent of a disaster. The new institutional framework is expected to usher a paradigm shift. Paradigm shift means I will say a wholesome shift. Entirely the shift is from say reactive approach to a proactive approach. From relief centric approach to a proactive regime that lays greater emphasis on preparedness, prevention, and mitigation. So now what is discussed here is the framework under the act. Framework means the organizational structure which is there under this act. The first and foremost or the most important is the National Disaster Management Authority. So sometimes the question comes separately on NDMA only in the exam. What is the role and responsibility of NDMA? You should be able to answer. So it is a very generic question, general question, because if you see now the working of NDMA, SDMA, DDMA are all more or less similar, but their coordination levels are different. Fine. So mostly you can expect a question on NDMA because it is the prime or apex body. Apex, like a Supreme Court is the apex body of India na, for decision. Everything, if any case is to be challenged, if any decision of court is challenged, you go to the, if first is the what, which court is there? The district courts are there. Then you go to the High Court. Then final authority is the Supreme Court. Like that, the NDMA is the apex body which coordinates all the management framework of India. So it is the apex body for disaster management headed by the Prime Minister and has responsibility for laying down policies, plans and guidelines for disaster management and coordinating their enforcement and implementation. Fine. So not only the plans and guidelines are laid, but also their enforcement and implementation. Whether or not the disaster management is done properly by the state disaster management authority and the other organization that it will study or that it will take care of. It will ensure the guidelines will assess the central ministries, departments, and states to formulate the respective disaster management plans. It will approve the disaster management plans and disaster management plans of central ministries department. It will take other such measures that it may consider necessary for prevention of disaster, mitigation, preparedness, capacity building. So this all will be done. This all will be done. Central ministries, departments, and state governments will extend necessary cooperation and assistance to the NDMA. So these people, these ministries which are there, central ministries, departments which are there under the central government, state governments will extend necessary. Like this pandemic is there, na? Now everything is everybody has joined hands. Of course, there are differences in the state government and the central over a lot of issues like conduction of exams and all, na, for students, and many other issues are there for opening of lockdown and all, no, opening of religious places. Many you can see issues are there, but still we are coordinating for the larger picture. If you see for this pandemic and all, when it was, you can say when the lockdown and all were enforced, every state government and all they just joined hands, and even with the differences, they coordinated well and they carried out necessary compliance. That will oversee the provision application of funds. Of course, the funds is the most important thing because previously what was there, na, there was not enough funds for disaster management. Only funds would be announced like a relief measure. Na? After the advent of disaster, after disaster has occurred, the floods would be announced. But now a holistic approach is there, and you can say before the disaster only measures are there. Instead of announcing the measure a package after the disaster, before only some provisions are there. So NDMA has the power to authorize the departments or authorities concerned. It is the most important authority, so it has the power. So it will again regulate to make emergency procurement or procuring of materials, like procurement of boats or say any, you can say machinery required for rescue and relief in a threatening disaster situation or disaster situation or disaster. The general superintendent's direction and control of, so NDRF falls under NDMA, National Disaster Response Force, which are, you can say, the you can say which are the direct, you can say which are involved in direct response of the disaster affected people, the NDRF, which work in the road zone of the disasters. So they are controlled, their superintendents, their guidance is all done by the NDMA. So the National Institute of Disaster Management, the presentation which we saw yesterday, works within the framework and broad policies of the guidelines laid down by the NDMA. The NDMA is mandated to deal with all type of disasters, natural or man-made. So all type of disasters the NDMA it has to deal. Some disasters are there, sir, emergencies. Of course, disasters which are emergencies, they need a different type of tackling, including those involving close involvement of security forces and our intelligence agencies like NIA and all, such as terrorism, counterinsurgencies, law and order situations like strike is there, and or some, you can say, some court decision is there, and people unrest is there, serial bomb blasts, hijacking, air accidents. CBRN means chemical, biological, radiological, radioactive and nuclear weapon systems, mine disasters, port and harbor emergencies, forest fires, oil field fires, and oil spills, and will continue to be handled by the extent mechanism, that is the National Crisis Management Committee. This committee is there at the national level, which will handle. The NDMA, however, formulate guidelines, so they will help them for facilitating their training and preparing activities in respect of CBR and emergencies. Cross-cutting themes like medical preparedness, psychosocial care and trauma, community-based disaster preparedness, information and communication technology training, preparedness awareness. All these systems will be done by the NDMA itself. So for natural management, I will be engaged also attention to engage also engaged to attention of NDMA in partnership with stakeholders concerned. So resources available with the national disaster management authorities at various levels are capable of discharging emergency support functions which are made available to nodal ministries, agencies dealing with the emergencies at time of disaster. After that comes the National Executive Committee. National Executive Committee comprises The Home Union Secretary as chairperson, like secretaries to the Government of India in the ministries, Department of Agriculture, Atomic Energy, Defense, Drinking Water Supply, Environment, Forest. Yesterday we saw the various organizations which are various departments which are involved with the various type of disasters. So they all made, because this is executive committee. This is a committee which has to take decisions and all. Na? So they require all 14 committees which are there, which should be there. Previously it was 14, now it may have changed a bit with the expansion and advent of this committee. As the chief of integrated defense staff, or like integrated defense staff means the chief of army, navy, and air force. One common chief has to be there. A post is there which is created last year only, or of the chiefs of staff committee as members, secretaries in the Ministry of External Affairs, Earth Sciences, Human Resource Development. So these all things are there for the proper function of a government. Mine, shipping, road, transport and highways, and secretaries NDMA will be special invitees to the meetings of the NEC. So these all committees which are there, they will be involved in the decision making process. So NEC is the executive committee of the NDMA. It is mandated to assist NDMA in the discharge of its function and also ensure compliance in the directives and the directions issued by the central government. So NEC is to coordinate response in the event of any threatening disaster situation or disaster. NEC will prepare the national plan for disaster management. This plan will be prepared on the national level based on the national policy of disaster management. So NEC will monitor the implementation of guidelines issued by NDMA and also perform such other functions as may be prescribed by the central government with the consultation of NDMA. So this is a body. A flowchart is there. I will show the flowchart tomorrow. The NDMA is there. So in addition, in consultation with NDMA, various other government, because NDMA is the prime, or you can say apex body. So they all have to be concerned or connected with the NDMA. Okay. The second organization for disaster management, or authority for the disaster management, is the state disaster management authority. So the chief minister, as the question was asked today, the chief minister will be the can say whole and so responsible for this particular authority. So it will work in accordance to the guidelines laid by the NDMA. Of course, it will have its own state plan, because every state, India is a very diverse country, all you know. Like if you go to America and all, they are, you can say, more or less, their topography and their country, you can say various. If you see US and all, US, except if you leave Alaska alone, all other states which are there, they are more or less having the same similar topography and similar climatic conditions. So it is easier for them to regulate. But in case of India, it is a varied, you can say, we have varied climate, we have varied topography, we have varied, you can say, soil conditions, various meteorological conditions in different aspects of our country. And hence the states are properly, like if you see, if you have a common policy for, of course common policy is there, but state specific policy if you don't have, if you see the northeastern belt and our, you can say, Maharashtrian belt, there is a vast difference in, say, the terrain, the type of disasters which occur there, and you can say the responses of people, the preparedness of people. So what you need to have is the state should also be well equipped. So like in line with the national executive committee, states will have the state executive committee to assist the states in the performance of its functions. And on similar lines, we have district disaster management authority, which will be working in the district. Like for Mumbai, we have the Mumbai Disaster Management Authority. Likewise, for Navi Mumbai, we have a separate authority. Likewise, the authorities are there. Then the local authorities are there down into the framework. So they are the last mile delivery systems, or you can say last mile disaster policy implementation systems. For this purpose of this policy, local authorities include Panchayati Raj in case of villages, municipalities, districts, cantonments. These all systems are there. Port sound planning authorities which will ensure and necessary compliance. So these all systems are there. Then comes the NDM, NIDM. Like we studied the NIDM in partnership with other research institutes has capacity development as one of its major responsibilities. So its responsibility comes in the third sphere, or capacity development. Like the six spheres are there. Out of those six spheres, capacity development should be taken into major precaution. So it's major responsibility along with training, research, documentation, of previous research. There's a development of a national level information base using some historical data. And they will create a GIS platform, a graphical user interface for people to see. Like in India, we have the Bhuvan and all. No? Of course, we'll discuss it in the fourth module in detail. Uh, and the technological aspects will come. So it will develop a network with other knowledge-based institutions and function within the broad policies and guidelines. Of course, it is dependent on NDMA. On NDMA, every disaster management body is dependent in India. It will organize training of trainers, disaster management officers, and other stakeholders. The NIDM will strive to emerge as center of excellence in the field of disaster management. This you should remember. All of you give the attendance. So, as far as possible, I will try to include a quiz in every module. It is not possible in every module because some modules are just can say quiz cannot be formulated. I'll try to include. They should be well aware of the system. Today mechanical students are very less. Generally this percentage is 25, 25, 75 percentage is there. So only 43 responses, 44 responses.
Sir, I did not sign her attendance.
Yeah, Hasnain?
Sir, send link again.
Okay, okay, no issue. I can understand there is a problem with everybody's network, so it is a considerable fact. But you should be genuine to yourself. You should, all of you should attend. Fine then.